Big tonight. Kenya's government said Thursday that its police officers will not be deployed to Haiti until all conditions on training and funding are met. Interior Minister Kithure Kindiki told Parliament's Department Committee on Administration and Internal Security that unless all resources are mobilized, troops will not leave the country.
We have agreed on a number of things. That first of all, the resources for this mission will be arranged or mobilized among the member states of the United Nations. And they have already identified the way the funds will be mobilized and how they will be made available for us. The only assurance that I want to give honorable chairs is that unless all resources are mobilized and availed, our troops will not leave the country. Not even one of them will leave Kenya.
He said UN member states are securing resources and have identified how funds will be mobilized and made available to Kenya for the mission. However, it was not immediately clear when the forces would be fully trained and funded to allow for deployment. Meanwhile, Haiti is reporting a fresh round of gang-related killings and kidnappings as it awaits help. On Wednesday, Haiti's Superior Court of Auditors and Administrative Disputes said 5 of its employees were kidnapped in the capital, Port-au-Prince, forcing the agency to temporarily postpone all hearings. About 3,000 migrants from Central America, Venezuela, Cuba, and Haiti have blocked traffic on one of Mexico's main southern highways to demand transit or exit visas to reach the U.S. border. The caravan of migrants set out on foot from the city of Tapachula near the Guatemala border on October 30, walking north toward the U.S. The contingent, including many women and children, later stopped walking at Huitztala, another town in the southern state of Chiapas, where they tried to get temporary travel documents to cross Mexico. Jamaica's Prime Minister Andrew Holness says consideration is being given to rectify Jamaica's missing UN General Assembly vote on a humanitarian truce in Gaza and a cessation of hostilities between Israel and Gaza's Hamas rulers. Holness says he would not want the misvote to be a continued distraction from what the government intends to be its position. He explained at a press briefing Wednesday that the government's support for any participation, including drafting and delivering a statement on behalf of CARICOM, is suggestive of what would have been Jamaica's vote on the issue.
It is indeed, obviously, an unfortunate circumstance that we did not get to cast a vote, physically make the vote. But as you have said, everything that we have said and done, including delivering a statement on behalf of CARICOM and helping to craft and word and draft the statement, suggests that that would have been our vote. That someone would then seek to make an issue of it. I think it's an extreme in the position. So the consideration is being given, obviously, to see if that position can be rectified post the vote, because we would not want it to be a continued distraction from what we intend to be our position, which is quite clear. That our position is we supported the humanitarian interventions for the Palestinian people.
Prime Minister Holness said there must be a pause in the war for humanitarian purposes.
I believe a humanitarian pause is necessary in Gaza. The images that are being broadcast all over the world, and my own research into the subject and the information that we receive, I have friends on both sides. Jamaica has a Palestinian community. I noted their peaceful protests earlier. Jamaica also has a Jewish community. We have been petitioned by both. Jamaica has voted many times in support of the Palestinian cause, and we have also voted in support of matters to do with Israel, because on both sides there are claims that could be justified. We don't want to see innocent people die, and that is our position.
The coalition government in the Cayman Islands is barely holding on to power tonight. On Thursday, controversial MP Makiva Bush quit the packed coalition, leaving Parliament deadlocked at 9-9 on the floor of the House and the government holding on to power by the slimmest of margins. The packed majority, needed to pass any legislation, including the forthcoming budget, is now dependent on Speaker of the House, Catherine Ebanks-Wilkes, who will now have a deciding vote in Parliament. Bush said he no longer had faith in the direction of the government and was left with no choice but to resign. He has indicated he would be willing to support an alternate government. His resignation comes 6 weeks after former Labour Minister Dwayne Seymour quit the packed government. Earlier this year, Chris Saunders, who was the Deputy Premier and Finance Minister at the time, also left the coalition. Both departures shook the stability of the government made up of independent politicians. The White House Latin America advisor Juan Gonzalez says the Nicolas Maduro government in Venezuela has until the end of November to fulfill its pledge to allow any opponent, including opposition leader Maria Corina Machado, to compete in next year's presidential election. Otherwise, the Biden administration will reinstate the recently lifted sanctions. Speaking in an interview with Colombian TV station NTN24, Gonzalez said the Biden administration also expects the Caracas regime to free what it calls all political prisoners, as well as all American the U.S. said is jailed unjustly in the Southern American country. The U.S. government says it has been waiting for Caracas to comply with the commitments it made in a series of negotiations held throughout the year with members of the Biden administration. The talks culminated in the signing last month in Barbados of an accord with opposition leaders to hold presidential elections next year. In exchange, the administration granted a 6-month general license temporarily authorizing U.S. transactions involving the oil and gas sector in Venezuela, and a second general license authorizing the operations of state-run Minervan, a previously sanctioned gold mining enterprise that had been trading in the black market. This is Primetime Caribbean.